each and every day, absolutely buying into our NHS constitution and the real purpose of the NHS. So I then looked at what research was, because, you know, you're all experts, and the definition that I found on the internet, on the next slide, so it said research is creative and systemic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. And I thought that was brilliant, because actually creativity is something that we don't talk about maybe as much as we should at work. You know, work's very serious and creativity is very kind of spontaneous and fun maybe. But research is all about creativity. It's all about thinking beyond the boundaries of what we currently believe to be true or possible. But it's also systematic. It's also logical and clever and intelligent. And it brings those two bits together in a way that increases the stock of knowledge. So I thought I would share that with you, because I think that's what you guys do all of the time. So I then started looking at our trust vision to decide, so if we've got a vision for research, how does that fit into our trust vision as Hampshire Hospitals? And our trust vision is to provide outstanding care for every patient. And vision is an interesting word, because on the one hand, I think people could very easily say, well, that's just not possible, is it? We're never going to provide. How are we going to provide outstanding care for the 11,000 people that arrive every week for an outpatient appointment? You know, one of them is going to go home going, well, that wasn't particularly outstanding, was it? It's, you know, it's not realistic to aspire that every single patient should receive outstanding care. But I'm less bothered about what's realistic, because I think a vision should be aspirational. It should be something that you may never get all of the way there. But like the quote says, you know, if you shoot for the stars, at least if you fall short, you land on the moon. You know, actually, we should be aspiring to do something that, even if it feels impossible, let's aspire to do that. So when I come into my suggestions for a vision for research, you might sit there and go, well, that's never realistic, Alex, don't be silly. But I'm putting it out there as something that we can aim for, and maybe if we fall short, we still achieve something incredible. So we have our 4 strategic objectives that support our vision: outstanding care for patients, empowered teams, living within our money, and innovating for the future. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes on each of those to see how they might relate to research. So if we start with outstanding care for patients. So this is where I need a bit of help and assistance from some of you in the chat, I hope. So I was reflecting on how research contributes to outstanding care for patients. And I think it contributes in 2 ways. It contributes to the patients who are directly involved in research, but it also contributes to the care we provide for everybody else who comes in through the hospital. And so I want you to think about if there is a particular patient or a particular group of patients that you think have personally really benefited from the research that's been happening in Hampshire Hospitals over years and years, then just put something in the chat that shares that with the rest of this group, that shares a particular patient or a particular group that you think the fact that they were able at Hampshire Hospitals to be part of a research programme, to be part of a trial, that's made a real difference to those individuals. Yeah, and Siobhan's put about intraoperative radiotherapy. That's a brilliant example, an incredible, much better experience for women, for people receiving care that they've only had access to because we're a research active trust. One of the ones that I think about from time to time was the haemophilia team were involved in research, and I'm going to get all the technical side of it wrong, but some sort of genetic research that meant that individuals who had to have blood transfusions and interventions on a really frequent basis for most of their lives suddenly went for a year. Yeah, Sarah's talked about it, the gene therapy. They went for months and months, a year, with no need to have those invasive treatments that they had had for the whole of their lives. That was amazing. Liz talks about MRI scans for diagnosing prostate cancer. Yeah, absolutely. Liz, the oncology patients. Yes, so many of our oncology patients benefited from being part of trials and part of research here at Hampshire Hospitals. So I think there is that bit for an individual patient who may get access to treatment that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to access, or who maybe get more frequent contact with healthcare professionals so that they have more time with healthcare professionals, longer conversations, that they will really feel benefit them individually. They also get a sense of being some part of something bigger, of contributing to the future knowledge of the medical profession and medicine. And then there are all the patients who get the benefit, aren't personally in the trials, but get the benefit of the treatments that we have been able to develop or get an evidence base for as a result of the research. And the RESPECT study, that's another brilliant example, Siobhan, which is, you know, absolutely helping people to take control of their own care. You know, what treatment do you want? What treatment wouldn't you want? How can we treat you as an individual? And everyone with COVID completely agree with that, Liz. And Ben, inflammatory bowel disease patients, brilliant. So I think we can be pretty clear that outstanding care for patients, our research community is absolutely contributing to our desire to provide outstanding care for patients. And on our next slide, my proposal is that our vision under this aspect would be that all of our patients have the opportunity to be involved in research in some way or another. Now, again, like I say, it's not achievable. I'm not suggesting it is, but let's set it as an aspiration and let's see what we can do to help make that more of a reality for more of our patients. Okay, in terms of our colleagues, our teams. So empowered teams is part of our strategic objectives. When I look at people involved in research, I again see people benefit in two different ways from being part of a research active organisation. So those individuals that are directly involved in research have opportunities to do something they're passionate about, to be involved in something that they believe in, to stretch their knowledge. And so the individuals directly involved are absolutely benefiting from being part of a research active trust. But everybody else who works here also benefits because we're around those kind of people who are pushing the boundaries. We improves our recruitment and retention so that actually our teams are better recruited and have more colleagues. And one of the things, whenever we look at staff health and well-being and we talk about, you know, free lunches or better car parking, which I know are very, you know, really important things, I always come back to the most important thing I think for people at work is having enough colleagues around them to do the job they want to do, enough colleagues of the right training, the right caliber, to have the right resources. That's what people want to come to work and do a good job. And if they can't because they haven't got the right colleagues around them, then, you know, we haven't got off square one. And research helps with that. So I want you to put in the chat if there are any particular kind of individuals or teams that you think have really benefited from the fact that we're a research active organisation. And the ones that come to my mind, I remember talking to a research nurse who said to me, I was thinking of retiring because the shift work on the wards was getting to me and I'd kind of had enough. And then somebody said to me, well, why don't you try research nursing? And she had moved into research nursing and done training to do that and become part of a research team and absolutely refound her love of nursing because it suited her work-life balance, but as well as her desire to know she was making a difference. And she found a team where she really fitted. And, you know, for that individual, that was an opportunity to carry on their career in nursing, do something they loved. So if there are teams or people that you think have benefited, then please put something in the chat about them in the same way that patients have benefited. What about our colleagues? We're going to hear later on today, I think, from Cindy about the 70 at 70 programme. That's a brilliant programme to encourage more nurses into bigger roles in research. And one part of my vision for Hampshire Hospitals, for our staff and our teams, is that that we continue with the medically led research, but we're also looking at nurse led, AHP led, you know, other professional groups leading on research programs. So the next slide, my proposal, and again, you'll tell me this is unrealistic, but for empowered teams, my vision would be that all our staff have the opportunity to be involved in research. That's just on the next slide. And that involvement might be as a principal investigator for a major trial, or it might just be all of our wonderful colleagues who participated in the Siren study as a patient, you know, as a participant in the trial. It could be anything, but wouldn't it be amazing if everybody who worked here at Hampshire Hospitals felt they were part of our research endeavour and making a difference? And we've got here, yeah, all involved in Siren study, the orthopaedic teams, the haematology teams. able to offer treatments. Our students, yes, isn't it brilliant that students, whether they're medical students, junior doctors, nursing students, AHP students, that they can come and learn in a research-rich environment. I love that phrase. Brilliant. Oncology team, stroke unit. Yeah, fantastic. Could you just move it on to the next slide, please? Sorry, I don't know who's doing the slides, is it? Yeah. Oh, you're whizzing through now. Go back a little bit. Yeah, so all our staff have the opportunity to be involved. Okay, we'll stick it on this one, okay? You can see what's coming. So our next objective is about living within our money. And this is something where, you know, I genuinely feel the responsibility of the fact that we spend taxpayers' money each and every day. People have worked really hard for their income, and we tax that in order to provide an amazing national health service. And as people who work in the NHS, it's our responsibility to make sure that we spend that money wisely and sensibly on things that make a difference. So living within our money is part of our objectives as well. And how does research contribute to this? Well, there's some really direct routes, like funding for treatments that we would otherwise have to pay for, but instead we get funded because they're part of a trial. But there are also lots of other financial benefits for this. Oh, brilliant. Pseudomyxoma phase 2 trial, license to use in Europe. It's fantastic. We're contributing to that wealth of knowledge. The financial benefits of having a really engaged workforce are huge. We don't have to pay for lots more agency shifts because we've got our own people who are working substantively for us, and we can nurture and develop. It provides income streams that we might not otherwise see. So not only to cover treatments, but I'm thinking of the Optogene program that our microbiologists have been involved in, which was about creating a COVID test in partnership with Optogene, which has then been licensed and has gone out to, I don't know if it's globally, but certainly around the UK as a test for COVID, and has generated an income stream to the trust because of the innovation of that department. So my vision around the financial side of things is that R&D grows its visible positive contribution to our finances. And by that, I don't mean we should be creaming off R&D money in order to fund NHS care. That is not appropriate at all. And I don't want anyone to think that is what I'm thinking. R&D money is there to support R&D. But I do think we need to be shouting about how it is making a visible contribution to our trust financial position through all these other ways that are perhaps slightly less direct, but also some direct methods. And then the last, leave it on this slide, but the last of our objectives is innovating for the future. That's the fourth of our 4 trust objectives. And I mean, what can you say about innovation and research? I mean, there is so much, isn't there? If you take it from the incredible COVID treatments, the recovery trial identified that people would have not made it through this year if we hadn't had that innovation, identified the treatments that really support patients with COVID, and then being able to use them. And the speed at which those treatments have got into clinical practice has just been phenomenal. But I also think of the innovation from our pseudomyxoma team, doing stuff nobody else in the world is doing, from our liver surgeons. I think Richard Hindley might be talking later about the Resume thing, that innovative treatment that's changing the way we treat poorly prostates. The innovation that comes from supporting people who are interested in research. So if there are particular innovations that you think have come out of our research programme, again, please put them in the chat. What are the things you're really proud of that you think Hampshire Hospitals has been innovative in and driven innovation? And the research community has absolutely been at front and centre of that. And my vision around innovating for our future and research, microbiology have just been amazing, Mandy, haven't they? Fantastic. But my vision is that we have a culture here at Hampshire Hospitals that supports and encourages innovation through research. I want everybody here to think that they can be, you know, a little bit brave, a little bit creative, a little bit fanciful in thinking about what's possible. Let's not be constrained by what we know today. Let's remember that what we know today, we didn't know 10 years ago, and what we know in 10 years, we don't know now. There's stuff out there to learn, there's stuff out there to find out about. And the only way we'll do that is if we really foster that culture of innovation, of thinking what if, and playing that through formal research studies, as well as a more kind of spontaneous, organic kind of view of innovation. And that's what we need to be. Yes, sepsis, big data. Some of the work that microbiology did and other teams about identifying the appropriate antibiotics for particular infection, and tests that could identify that so quickly. And I remember talking to some of our teams down there who were saying it means that instead of having a patient on a whole load of antibiotics for several days while we tried to work out what the right one was, we can now work it out in a matter of hours and get them on the right thing, get them home again, get them better quickly. That innovation's brilliant. Yeah, breast surgery, of course, Siobhan. I'm amazed that we haven't mentioned that earlier, but loads of innovation here at Hampshire Hospitals, and we really need to encourage that. So that's my vision for research, and you will see each of these slides has been underpinned by our values. So my very last slide is our trust values that I'm sure are familiar to all of you. And I was just reflecting how much our research community really live these values. So compassionate, caring about our patients and our staff. So I believe that all of you involved in research are really driven to try and work out what's the very best thing for our patients, and to provide that in a compassionate way that will improve care, not just for the people we see today, but for the patients that will come in the future. Accountable or responsible, always improving. Well, if research isn't about always improving, I don't know what it is about. It absolutely is about understanding that while what we do today is amazing, we can always do it better. And there are always new things to learn and new techniques and new things to find out. Respectful. Again, research is all about respect for colleagues, patients and their families. We talked about the respect trial, was one of the ones that came in the chat, about really understanding what matters to patients, and encouraging and challenging each other to always do our best. And I see that from you guys all the time, from our research community, really encouraging people, pushing each other to do our best, to find out what the best treatments are out there, to help develop the best treatments, to help understand diseases and conditions and patients better every day, every year that goes by. So thank you. I want to welcome you to our research conference day. It's brilliant that we've got it here. I want to particularly thank Natasha and Siobhan for their leadership in this community and for setting up this day. And I hope you have a brilliant day. Welcome to your day. I think we've got a couple of minutes for questions if anyone's got any, but thank you very much for participating in the chat. I did, as I was driving in, think, what if nobody puts anything in there? But you haven't let me down. You've given me brilliant examples. So thank you very much. Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was really brilliant and exciting, all the vision we have for Hampshire. Just wanted to ask, does anyone have any questions for Alex?
We have one question. So Alex, in relation to delivering research, which of the care values do you think is the most important?
Oh, you're asking me to choose between my children. In delivering research. Maybe it's about encouraging, because I think, and maybe it's about where we are on our research journey at the moment. And right now, I think encouraging each other to push the boundaries more and do more of research, and encouraging our patients to get involved, encouraging our colleagues to get involved. Maybe right now in our journey, if I had to pick one, I'd pick encouraging. But I don't know, maybe you need to ask Lara that question as well. I can see her on my screen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. Laura, did you want to comment on that?
Sorry, unmute myself. Yeah, it's really difficult because it's a bit of all of them, isn't it? I think you could argue for all of them, but encouraging sounds good, because we are, as Alex says, we are at a stage where we want to really push forward and expand and celebrate everything that we've done, but look forward to doing even more. So encouraging sounds good. I agree with my boss.
That's good. Thank you very much, Laura. And thank you again, Alex.